Hey, everybody. We're going to wait for some people to come in. We hope everybody's going to join us tonight. My son's over there being a smarty pants, so I should put him on. All right, we're just going to go. We told you we'd be here at 7, and at 7 we're here. Let's network it out. Wait for somebody to come. Come on, guys. We need y'all on here. We need questions. We need to tell you the answers to the questions.
Share it, ask questions, keep us on topic. Like I'd send a message out to everybody. We're new at this. We're trying to get it out to you. If we're skipping around, stop us and ask us. Because we just have so much. I mean, we can't help from being all over the place.
They're not going to be able to hear us.
They can turn their stuff up too.
If y'all can hear us pretty good, okay, let us know. Y'all go over to the YouTube channel too if you want to. Hi, Nicole. Hi, Libby. Hi, Emily. Thank you all for watching. I'm kind of waiting on somebody else to come on. We got a lot to go over with, so if y'all would just kind of keep us on topic. Oh, sorry, I lost. All right, guys, I know Gary's going to probably call at 7:30 because he doesn't listen to me. Tell him what we're going to do, and if he calls tonight, I'm going to put him on the speaker. So if anybody has any questions, I can't see what we're going, but if y'all want to jump over to YouTube as well, I can see that one better. I put it on our live, but here's what we have. So anyway, let's just go ahead and start. If anybody comes on, y'all just start asking questions. Everybody knows we've been broadcasting this for days. So we're lagging. Our Facebook is lagging to what we're doing, so I'm not sure how this is going to go. So I'm going to start out. I'm going to let Amy's been reading. I'm going to let her start out with what she's been reading. I know last week we talked about David Davenport and how he got the 5-page statement and said that Gary said it, but yet Gary was only out of his cell for a good 3 minutes, 5 minutes tops. Amy's been reading too. You know, he kept saying that the sheriff told him that Gary wanted to talk to him, and then when they got on the stand, Davenport tried to say the sheriff got him, and it was because the bailiff came and got him. And Amy's been reading what that bailiff said. The bailiff don't remember doing that, so that just goes back. I'm going to let Amy read that from the transcript, and then I'm going to see if we can get some more people coming on.
So I've been sitting here reading. His name is Mr. Oinby, the bailiff, that supposedly said that Gary wanted to speak to someone, to talk with him. And they had put him on the stand. I mean, we have it black and white. We got the transcripts. They asked him, I mean, I don't know if y'all can see, but there's like quite a few pages here. And it's pretty much Mr. Oinby. They have asked him repeatedly just different ways around about it.
We're saying they can't hear us very good.
Like, they're asking back in March, did you hear at any time you say anything about what he wanted to do? If you recall him asking for a sheriff, and he is saying no, he cannot recall. I mean, you all know, like, there is multiple people in jail, a lot of people in jail. this bailiff, for one, cannot
Turn it
recall
up.
every single thing
They can't hear us.
that anyone asked them. So, I mean, they keep on asking him. I'm going to turn this up because I think somebody is having trouble hearing it.
How about now? Can y'all hear us now?
Okay, I had the volume down. It is turned up now. So I'm hoping you can hear better now. Can you guys hear better now?
Diane, Belinda, can y'all hear us now? We're lagging. Facebook's lagging on our end, so I'm not sure. There it is. It's on mute. No, turn it up. That should turn it up, shouldn't it? A little. Okay. How about now? Can you hear us now better?
Sorry, we are trying to figure out technology. Oh, yeah. It's good. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to turn this down.
Is it better?
It's going to
Okay.
end up messing with me if I hear it lagging.
Okay.
So, sorry. So, like I was saying, they had asked him multiple different ways. Are you saying he either wanted to see the sheriff or talk to him, or you can't remember exact words? He said, I don't recall. Okay. Did you relay that to anybody? Did you ask him if he wanted to speak to everybody? He said, I couldn't recall until it's brought up and everything. He said there was another boy in there, an inmate on the same day, that wanted to talk to a sheriff about a 4-hour pass to go to the hospital. I mean, he's telling him, like, it was not Gary that was asking to speak to a sheriff. He's like, but I understand, but, and I mean, this is in court. They have him on the stand. He's like, I understand, but I'm talking about Gary Sutton. He's like, I mean, I didn't. He's telling him over and over. I mean, Mr. Wrongful ends up getting, kind of upset, like where they keep on asking him. He's like, I do understand your testimony of what you were saying. He's like, I mean, are we asking the right question? He's like, I mean, you are sworn to tell the truth here. And he's saying, that's right. I mean, I'm telling you the stuff I can recall. I mean, they keep on, it's like they're pressuring him to try to say what they want him to say, because they're trying to prove like that he come out of his cell. He gave this big, what was it, 5 pages?
Yeah.
We know there was 5 pages of a statement. And was it 3 or 5 minutes? It was either 3 or 5 minutes. It was on video. It's the reason why we know the exact time. That they say that they took him out of his cell, supposedly had an altercation, walked him all the way over to the office, to the sheriff, which is, a good distance. I know y'all don't know exactly, but it's a good distance. And sit with him, and Gary gave a full 5-page statement on what had happened and everything, all within this 3 to 5 minutes. And here they're sitting there trying to pressure, one of their bailiffs to say, I don't think you're understanding the question. This is what the courtroom is telling Mr. Oimby. And he's sitting there saying, like I told you, I do not recall of him asking for a sheriff. The reason why we're going over this is because kind of just further proof, they keep on with somebody just like they did. Some of the people that, our private investigator had went on and talked to, that was the jury member. Like we talked about before, one of them felt threatened. They wouldn't answer any of their questions. You can't do that in a big case like this. You can't come out and try to get people to say what you want them to say. If you're wanting to prove, especially a high-end case like this, a murder trial, you either go by facts or don't be doing it.
Yes.
I mean, but when it came down to it, I mean, there was no proof, there was no evidence. I mean, General Alsmusser, he even says in here in the trial, like, this is a purely circumstantial case. There is no evidence. And like he says, they're trying hard to prove this because they had nothing. They had nobody. They had no witnesses. Like, I mean, they were trying to push people to say what they wanted them to say. And we'll get into that further also about how, like, you know, as far as down to medical examiners, we went through, what was it, like 4 or 5 medical examiners, because all of them was giving them a different timeline of the murder than what they needed it to be, until they got to one disgraced medical examiner that was already under investigation at the time. He actually got disbarred because he fabricated and lied for, you know, law enforcement and everything to fit their timelines of what they needed on cases. And just like, you know, one of the biggest ones on ours was Bass. He's a world-renowned, like, I mean, he's our body farm guy at UT. He said there's no way. I mean, that Charles Harlan is a disgrace. I mean, is whatever you want to call him, like, because he is gone now. But I mean, he was in it for money. I mean, that's pretty much it. He went by whatever state said, you know, like, and again, you can't do that. This is playing with somebody's life. It's the reason we need help.
Yeah, well, besides David Davenport, who was the TBI agent that lied, and we got proof of that, we have the main investigator of these cases, whose name was James Widener. I looked into some more cases that he had done around that time and now, and every time he gets something to go to the judge to be able to get his warrant to go for the indictment, it's all hearsay. What he has heard. He doesn't get out and investigate what needs to be investigated. So that's another one too. James Widener, everything that he said he had was a lie. He said that he had 4 eyewitnesses that put them on the scene of the crime. He didn't have those. He didn't have anything, and like, they got him in court. Do you want to read that, Amy? Let me read it. In court, and they asked him, like, I'm just going to read here. Of course, he was with the Blount County Sheriff's Department. He'd been there since 1986, so around this time was 92. And so he'd been in the law enforcement for 16 years, and his background was just law enforcement. Of course, they asked him all that. But in February of 92, they asked him, I take your detective at the time, and he said, yes, sir. And the Picasso, sir, were you called to the Manning Lane area around the Blue Hole there in Blount County? And he said, yes, sir, I was. When you got to about what time was this, remember, the call came in at 4:31 in the afternoon. Okay, so that is a key right there. So it was 4:31 on a Monday afternoon. Okay, but the timeline was that Tommy got killed on a Friday night. So this is where Amy was talking about Charles Harlan came in. So they had the doctor that did the autopsy on Tommy. They had the EMS that caught Tommy's body, who told them that he was so badly stiff and in full rigor mortis that they didn't even think that they could get him on the stretcher. So they get in and they tried to disgrace him. They tried to say that he didn't know what he was talking about. He didn't have enough experience to know what rigor mortis was, but yet this man is also one that goes out and gets the bodies of people. So I'm sure he does. I mean, your coroner knows what time rigor mortis goes on and everything. So they tried to say to them that he didn't know what he was talking about. Then you had the doctor that did the autopsy told him he had to have been dead within 24 to 36 hours. Like I said, they found him at 4:30 on a Monday afternoon, but yet the state wants him dead on Friday night so they can put Gary and his uncle at the scene. The reason they wanted Gary and his uncle at the scene is because they couldn't get out and do their job and find the other people. They had other motives. They had other people that had seen Tommy. Gary was not the last person to see Tommy alive. It was the girl in that car that Tommy left with, that he'd been doing his pills and stuff with that day, whom, if they didn't know, they knew that Tommy wasn't there for public drunkenness in the jail. They knew that you had so much time before you could go pick him up. They knew what time it was going to be before they went to pick Tommy up, or they wouldn't have been at that jail to get Tommy after they went and bailed him out. So everybody wants to ask too, why did they go bail Tommy out? They went and bailed Tommy out because Tommy's family would not go bail him out, and because that's just what they did.
Tommy, this was nothing new.
Yeah, it was nothing new. So, you know, then you've got other doctors that came on. You've got the guy that was, I can't think of his name right now, but he was the bug doctor. They called him the bug doctor at the time. He came and said that he could not have been dead more than 36 hours because he didn't have the bug larvae on him that he should have had. He didn't have any of that stuff. So the main thing of that is Charles Harlan. They went to court. They spent all morning letting this juror know his credentials and stuff. But what the prosecutors didn't do is they didn't tell which. I feel like too that Gary's defense should have looked into it, but I'm sure they didn't because they didn't know. Charles Harlan was already on investigation because he had already said that this one guy was dead, and they found him years later, and he was alive. He said he fabricated it. He said that it was through his dental records. He didn't. He didn't care. He just gave people, the state, what they wanted. He had a dog in with him one night doing the autopsy, and the dog ate parts of the liver and stuff of the person he was doing the autopsy on. Here a few years back, there was he had said that these boys had drowned, took it to that, but they resumed their bodies. Those boys didn't drown. Somebody had killed them, but it was also Dr. Harlan that gave that testimony. Charles Harlan also gave the testimony that this kid died of SIDS. He was like I want to say a 9 or 14-year-old kid that his bones and everything were showing, and they figured, after Charles Harlan said he died of SIDS, that he was malnutrition, he was abused, he wasn't fed, he was everything. So it piles up over this man, and he eventually got fired. He got fired for the state of Tennessee's medical director. That right there alone should have gotten Gary a new trial. Everybody that Charles Harlan had been involved in, they got new trials. But for whatever reason, Gary cannot get a new trial. Basically, it's because he had a public defender that wasn't worth a crap. She knew just exactly how to put things through the appeals court, just enough to get it turned down. And with the appeals court, they won't look at it again, no matter what. You can put in there an and, it, or a but that was in the wrong place. They're going to deny it, and you have lost all of that appeal. So that's where Gary's at. He is getting ready to come up for another execution date. We've got word that the state of Tennessee does have the protocol in place. So it's just a matter of time for them to, and their lawyers is looking for execution dates to start coming out at the first of the year. The thing of it is this is a horrible and so messed up case that you've let your good old boy system come in, and they've got to do exactly what they want to. How many more people have they done this to, not just Gary? Because you don't know what to do, who to talk to, and how to get this out. So that's a little bit of Gary's case as well. But going back to James Widener, he never could let Gary's lawyer know who called him to that jail, because they all knew that none of them was supposed to be talking to Gary without his lawyer present. And they tried to blame it on poor little Chester Oinby. they got Chester on the stand, and he said, I don't remember. I had too many people. It wasn't written down. It wasn't anything. And they got him so aggravated and so just kept asking him the same question in different ways that he finally told them, I'm not the one on trial here. So that's how they manipulated and did everybody. So I guess too, if I had been sitting on that jury, I wouldn't have known. I would have believed what the state wanted to put out because they lied so much that Al Smutser's a good liar, and Al Smutser, I'm pretty sure he probably went to drama school, but that man could, he's lying, but that man can make you believe it, and I know that's what a DA is for. And
feel bad for this guy, especially having to work there as a bailer.
Hey Callie, hey Nancy, Chinchilla, thank you for joining us. Hey Judy, glad that you could join us. Karen, thanks for coming on. Yes, Judy, it was their liver and spleen that the dog ate.
I mean, even when they had to go in his house and recover things when under investigation and they were charging him for certain things. They had to go in his house, and he had sitting around his home where he had taken home parts, human parts, bones, human tissue. We're trying to let you know what a disgrace he is. And like I said, we had 4 other medical examiners, and they could have used any of those. I mean, these are people they rely on for every one of their cases, but they choose to use Charles Harlan as the key witness in this case. I mean, he's the one that established the time and death of the victim. So, and I mean, he's the outcome of the entire case. So, I mean, whether or not the defendants could have possibly been the perpetrators of the crime, I mean, it relies heavily on Dr. Charles Harlan, his sworn by discredited witness. I mean, he wasn't supposed to be on that stand, period. He was already under investigations. He actually got completely cleared of his license. And this is the only thing that kind of like held him there. But pretty much everyone else that he discredited their case and they knew that he was lying, they have gotten in trials.
They come out of prison.
Yeah, some of them have come out of prison because, this is stuff he fabricated for our justice system. This is our justice system. It's the reason why, it's scary. I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's something small you may get charged with or something big like this that is murder.
Ooh.
I mean, you could spend your whole life in it, in jail, if you do not have means to hire someone high up, a lawyer. I mean, because if that was the case, if we would have had money to hire I'm going to say, big shot attorney out of town, this would have never got forward, ever.
Well, and a lot of times too, every time something came up and the lawyers, the TU2, this is from General Smutser. He said, Mr. Miller, he was one of the lawyers. He asked Detective Widener. He said, in fact, Detective Widener, when you were interviewing one or both of these men, particularly Mr. Dillinger, and he was telling you about these calls, you said back on the 28th when you were interrogating him as a suspect, you said, we checked those records. We have your records, and those calls were never made. Do you remember telling him that? Okay, so let me go back to that. This is talking about what Widener said is, so Gary and James went before Tommy was found, before Connie was found. They went on their own to the police station to try and help them find Tommy and Connie because they were worried about it. And this is what, so on the 28th, maybe so, is what Widener said. He goes, okay, is it your testimony you don't know whether or not those calls were made? At this time today, I do know. That was in his court. You knew it at that time too? No, sir, I don't believe so. We didn't have the phone logs at that time. That was part of an interview. That was part of an interview technique, part of our interrogation techniques. So you lied to him, in other words. Yes, sir. And then the question was, I think you told the statements, didn't they, sir, that they called the hospital and the jail because anytime Tommy wanders and doesn't come back home, he either gets hurt and ends up in the hospital or ends up in jail. And he said, I don't believe so, sir. Miller, you don't remember him telling you that? Mr. Sutton told me it wasn't nothing unusual, according to him, for Tommy to wander off for 4 or 5 days. I can't recall Mr. Dillinger telling me that. So another thing that they said too is that James and Gary's stories were too much alike. They were too much alike because they were telling them what they knew. They were telling them and trying to help them to find Tommy. So, and then he told them too, I mean, they had just went and got Tommy out of Cott County jail, and they paid $600 to bond him out in Cott County. And they bonded him out in Jefferson County. And he said, yes, he may have said that, sir. You're not going to tell me you don't remember all that. I'm sorry, you're not. And he told you that nobody in Tommy's family would ever go to bail him out because nobody cared about him, so he would have to go. You remember him telling you that, don't you? According to Mr. Dillinger, yes, sir. It wasn't, it's not that nobody cared about him and his family. That's not what I'm saying. It's just his family got tired of going and getting him, and they didn't have the money to go get him out of jail every time he went to jail. So they always went and got him somehow because they wasn't going to let Tommy sit in jail. And he also said, and these boys told you that the reason they went and got him, and in particular on that night, was because nobody else in his family would go get out of jail. And he said, according to him, they had these phone records. I was there that Friday night. They called. Connie is the one that called and said, Tommy called. Can you go get him out of jail? Connie's the one that called. They tried to say she didn't. Then they tried to say they didn't have his phone records, but then they did. So, you tell me. They called, they didn't call what? What are they going to do? So, and then he asked him, and so you can't say whether or not Tommy left with and they shouldn't have said this, but they said an ugly fat lady, which that was kind of not nice, but they said it anyway. And he said, and you can't say whether or not Tommy left with a fat lady. You have no videotapes or anything like that. That's correct. At the time, I was taking what they were telling me as information, and that was because it was true. So that's another thing. They tried to get the tapes from the jail for them to show he was in the parking lot, but lo and behold, for whatever reason, they weren't working that night.
Just in particular that night.
Yeah, just that night they weren't working.
Just so happened.
And then, of course, they couldn't say, in fact, you told these boys that you got videotapes out there at the jail, and that will show that Tommy didn't leave with that fat girl. You told them that. That was on the 20th. Yes, sir, I did. So they knew that he didn't have the videotapes because they know if he had the videotapes, then he would have seen who Tommy left with. They know that Tommy did not leave with them that night. And that was another one of their investigations, they said. So during the investigation, it was. And so the question was, you lied. It was a lie. It was a lie. And he answered, that's correct, sir. So there's no videotapes over there at all. No, we had monitor cameras, but they don't have tapes tied to them. Okay. They told you they left the courthouse and they were back home in 35 minutes. I think you said 35, 40, 45. Picked them back home about midnight. Yes, sir. And then they went and ate. Yes, sir. They came back home. You mentioned that they didn't call Connie about Tommy's whereabouts when they came back from the huddle house. I don't think they did, sir. They didn't come back from the huddle house from the jail. They came from the jail back to James's house where me and Linda were. We sat around for a few minutes. They were telling us how they tried to get Tommy to come back. And then we did. We went to the huddle house. We went to the huddle house and ate. And, that's another thing that we found out, that Heather found out, that it didn't matter what I said. It didn't matter what Linda said. It didn't matter what James said. It didn't matter what Gary said about us being at the huddle house. But we did find out that there was another witness that was at the huddle house that did see us, but they told her when she went forward to tell them, hey, I saw them at the huddle house. They told her to get out of their office. And she will tell us that today. That was one of her things, and we didn't even question her. That was just something she just came about, and we were like, wait a minute, you saw us at the hot puddle house, and she did. So from the very beginning, the very beginning, Detective Widener is the one that started out with the lies. Detective Widener is the one that did the invalid search warrant. When they went and found Tommy's body, and they're supposed to search all around every place of that to see if they have any evidence, they found nothing. From that time, and then they went and did, and it's another thing, they did an illegal search warrant. And judge even said when they took it to court, it was invalid, it was illegal, but they're going to need it, so I'm going to let them keep it. So what had happened is they went and they were already out and on the property of James's property before anybody was there. So they backtracked it, and they kept tripping over themselves in court and saying that, well, we were at the back porch, but we weren't on the property. If you were at the back porch, you were on their property. Mm-hmm. So when they went and did the warrant, they had nothing on that they were coming to look for that they took. So they asked them, why did you take this stuff? Well, we thought that we might need it later. We didn't know if it was going to be there in a couple of days. Connie hadn't been found yet. All kinds of shells and everything. And then they decided to go back to the murder scene after that, and lo and behold, there was those shells. 2 shells that they found, that was the same shells that they had from James Dillinger's place, side by side. They were laying side by side. We have the picture where they were laying side by side. So Gary's lawyers also had blown up the picture where Tommy's body was in it and the picture afterwards. Same place. There was no shells or anything in this picture, but in this picture, same place. Wait a minute. There's no shells here in this one, but there's the shells in that one, laying side by side.
Perfectly side by side.
Perfectly side by side. You don't do a shotgun like that. I don't know a whole lot about guns because I never mess with guns, but shotgun shells don't land side by side. And that was another thing that they never brought that up in court because I guess they didn't pay attention to it. That's one of the things that when Heather went to the lawmakers, they were like, wait a minute, we're advocate hunters. You're not going to find shotgun shells side by side like that. You're not going to do it. So, anyway, yeah, they had no ballistics. And then, too, all the things that they said, they even said that in court, they had no fingerprints of James or of Gary. And to back it up and tell you, too, they went and searched Gary's place, and they got nothing from his place, not a thing. And they were trying to say that Gary lived with James. No, he didn't. He had a place over in Kodak. That's where me and him stayed. He had his own place. And the place that they said that they seen them loading up and moving out, it was over at an apartment on 411. Hello, I lived there. That was my apartment. So Widener went on all that stuff, and that was all hearsay. So he never got out and investigated any of it. So that was one of the reasons why he was able to get to go to the judge and say that they were trying to leave town. They were not trying to leave town. They went from Sevierville to Seymour to Kodak. That was it. The 3 places where they lived. It was James's house, my apartment, Gary's house, but I stayed with him 99% of the time. So James and Tommy's brothers were always into something and didn't get along because they had done come and shot up James's house, something that nobody cared to mention that they had shot James's house up. So when all this happened, they wanted to try to say, well, they didn't even go down where the fire was. No, we didn't, because James Dillinger, James Griffin, and Bill Griffin were already in an argument, and Gary didn't want no part of it. Tommy didn't want no part of it, and they were mad at him. So why would we go down there? And so that's another thing they tried to say. And then they tried to say that none of us even went to the funeral home or anything. Well, we were told not to go because it would just cause trouble. So it's things like that. And then, of course, Widener said he had this witness, he had that witness. All those witnesses said, no, we didn't see that. We didn't see what you're saying we saw. So he had no witnesses. He had nothing. But he lied the judge, Sexton, to take it to the grand jury. He lied to the grand jury and brought down the indictment to have the arrest warrant. So from day one, it was nothing but a lie.
And he was confronted by the judge. I mean, and to remind you, he was the lead investigator, Detective Wadner. He was confronted on the stand by the judge for having lied in an affidavit, saying how he had two witnesses that he claimed saw the defendants at the crime scene. It was a false testimony that gave him grounds for a search warrant like that he went to in the last place at Dillinger's. This was the very last time that he had went back there, because they went there twice with nothing, no search warrant, nothing. The first time, no one was there. They walked around his place and everything, and like she had said, if you're on his back porch, it was approximately, I'm wanting to say, I'm not great with feet, approximately 20, 30 feet from the driveway. So if you were already on there, you were on his property. They were on it. The second time that they had went, James's wife, Linda's daughter, was there, which she just happened to be there. She did not live there. They said that she had gave permission to search the property when they started collecting up things. For one, she couldn't have gave permission. She wasn't a property owner. She couldn't give permission. That's when they went through collecting everything on the ground, bullets, like shoving them in their pockets and everything, these bullets. So, everyone knows, if you don't know, you can Google it, because I've had to do a lot of Googling because I don't know all the law. It's kind of like anything you collect, during an invalid search warrant or no search warrant at all in this case. It's kind of like they give a saying, fruit from the poisonous tree. You cannot use anything. You cannot use any of that. But it wouldn't have mattered if they was able to use it. They run ballistics on the shotgun shells that they found 2 days later at the scene that mysteriously ended up there. No ballistic matches. They also found some beer cans at the scene. They run fingerprints on it. Did not match James or Gary. Cigarette butts at the scene. Again, run ballistics on it. No match to them. So, everything on here was lied about. And then they, our lawyer at the time that, we thought was helping at the beginning. He called it out. He tried to call it out at the beginning about, the investigator Wadner lying on the stand. But all the judge had to say was, if he wants to sit up here and perjure himself on this, it's in black and white, if he wants to sit up here and perjure himself on the stand, he's just the one that's going to have to live with that. But no, he's not the one having to live with that. He's not the one that's been sitting in prison for almost 34 years. It's Gary that's having to live with that. I've always been taught anyway, and I know any law books I've read so far, you perjure yourself on the stand, that's a charge for yourself. You go to jail for that. It's not, you'll just have to live with that lie. That's not the way it goes. Okay, so, I'm not meaning to jump all over the place, but I'm trying to just bring up some of the key things in the case. We went over, I was talking about the attorneys that tried to help in the beginning. They actually, some of them did. Some of them was intimidated by our higher ups justice system, because they knew. They even come out and said, we will not be able to work in this town again if we go forth to trying to help. And definitely second our case, but
That's
stuff
messed
like that shouldn't be allowed to even happen. But I mean, they acknowledged they lacked experience in homicide cases. I mean, you were supposed to have a capital case, kind of per se, like
Okay.
underneath your belt
So
before
I-
you try a capital case.
Mhm.
And they were telling the judge, we don't have that. We don't have anyone here capable of trying this murder case. The judge didn't care. He told them they were going to stay on it to figure it out because he knew that it was going to be someone that truly couldn't help Gary, because they had no idea kind of what they were doing, how far, how far they could get with it, whatever. So, they didn't get anything done, like with multiple people lying on the stand. They couldn't never get anything done, which because the judge didn't allow anything to be done. They literally let the DA and the detectives do and say whatever they wanted, even though they admittedly got up on that stand and said, yes, I lied. He said, sometimes we just have to do that to make a case. No, like that. That the laws are written for a reason. So who is to protect us when it is our host justice system that's allowing detectives, FBI agents, judges, everybody to not give you a fair trial? Who else do you go to? This is the whole reason why we're doing this, because we're trying to get to someone. We're not asking for anything except for someone to actually look over this case. They can see themselves in black and white. They can go talk to the people. They can ask them anything they want to. We just want someone to look over it and see all the wrong, the fabricating, the lying, just everything. That's all we're asking. It's for a fair chance. That's all he needs is a fair chance. And they'll see that he's innocent. Anything else you want to add?
No, because like I said, like we said, let's see, we're gonna cut this one off. All right, so I'm gonna say this. I've said it before. This is Gary's page. This is for Gary. This is for Gary's family, which this is Gary's niece. She lived this. She was young and she had to go through a lot through school with this because kids are mean, people are mean. So I know I just had somebody come on here that said some people are where they belong. No, some people are where they belong, but Gary's not where he belongs. So if you want to come on in this page and you want to talk bad about Gary or you want to say this or that, I challenge you to come here and read these transcripts, and I want you to show me where it's right. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to I do, but I will also, I'm going to delete your comment. I'm going to kick you off this page because this page is not for that. This is for Gary to get his story out. I've said this, and I won't. And this is for Gary's family. Gary and his family has never been able to tell this story. Yeah, we are all over the place, but it's just so much. That's why we want y'all to ask questions. Ask us questions. Tell us what you want to hear. I don't even know if I'm able to see your comments, but I did see that one, and you know, you can say what you want to do. You can act like y'all are Christians, but I'm gonna tell you one thing: a Christian don't want to put somebody to death. I think if you did do something and you go to death row or whatever, then that's your punishment to stay there for the rest of your life. I'm telling you right now, Gary's innocent. I will fight all day and all night and for the rest of my life to show. So come on, you want to come on over here, read these transcripts. There's not one thing in these transcripts that's right. I want you to pull out these transcripts what they did right, because you're not going to find any.
And I do want to say real quick, for anyone, including the comment that we just got, I will be the first one to tell you because, like she said, I am his family. I am his niece. I will be the first one to tell you, was he an angel out here? He wasn't. He was a working country boy that did like to drink. He hung out with buddies, friends at bars, just like we all did in our young 20s. Because that's what he was. He was barely in his 20s when all this went down. So was he an angel? Did he get in bar fights and everything? A lot of, like, some of the people, I'm not going to just call out names right this second, but they know who they are that's made comments. I'm going to tell you, it was literally they got into it over a woman. So to say that someone needs to be where they are, considering Gary's on death row for a woman, I mean, if you do not have anything better to do with your time, please just go somewhere else. This is somebody's life. This is my uncle's life. This is friends and family's life. And he's not the only one sitting on death row. Like, when we do bring him home, because I know we will.
Yeah.
Whenever the right person sees this and sees all the wrongdoings and sees the ballistics, sees there's no evidence, we will bring him home. We won't stop there. We will advocate for other people sitting on death row that is just as in as bad a spot as he is.
Right.
I mean, don't condemn somebody by anything in their past, especially when it's something, I'm not saying it's right, but as stupid as whether it's a bar fight over a girl or them out drinking or something. You don't condemn somebody for something like that and say that they should be sitting on death row. We need help. We're here for him. We're not entertaining any of that. So if that's what you're here for, please go ahead and leave our page.
Yeah. Hi, Victoria. Thank you for watching. I can't, for whatever reason, and I'm just going to tell you, we will get this. We got this far tonight because my granddaughter helped us, and she wasn't here tonight. So next week, when we do this, or before then, I talked to Gary. That's why I left. He called. He said that we would try to get him on so he could talk to us as well. Y'all need to hear from Gary. Y'all need to hear him. You need to hear what he has to say. So when we do this, hopefully my granddaughter will be here and we can do this stuff better. Judy, I don't know how to share this. I don't even know if it's even on Facebook. I mean, I've only had a few comments and nothing else. So if y'all are asking questions, we apologize. But the people that did know Gary, the people, his friends that did know him, they know Gary was a good person, and they know Tommy was somebody that he would never hurt. And I'm going to tell you right now, too, everybody that knew Gary will tell you that he would never lay his hand on a woman either. So, yes, I care about Gary. I love him. I do. But if I thought any part of my mind, any part of me thought he had anything to do with this, I'd not be busting my honey into his innocence. So, y'all need to get, well, I don't want to say you all, but a lot of people need to get, they need to get educated about death row. Death row is nothing that you see in these movies. People on death row, yeah, there's some of them that are they're not monsters, but they make really bad decisions. But the thing with the death row case is that you should not have any doubt whatsoever to put somebody in the execution chamber. Every one of these jurors had doubts, but the judge didn't lead them the correct way, and the DA lied to them. We have jurors that's come forth. We have affidavits of these jurors that they didn't want to give Gary the death penalty. They asked if they could do something separate, and they told them, you don't need to make any concern about this. You need to just sign that. There was also jurors that was in that jury room that would fuss at the other jurors if they asked questions. So don't come on here and say what you think, because let me tell you, this could happen to you. This could happen to somebody in your family, and there's not a thing you can do about it. So we have to get the right people, the right person. Now, if you have a lot of money, you can do it, because you tell me what rich person is sitting on death row. There's not. There's not one rich person.
There's statistics. You can get on there and read, because I've actually been doing that the last while, reading on statistics of people sitting on death row. Just over the last couple decades, there's been over 200 people. One is too many, but over 200 people that was sitting on death row, they have proved their innocence later, whether it be fabricated evidence, mistaken eyewitness cases, DNA proof. But they said the number one was eyewitness and fabricated evidence from our justice system. That's how they proved the other over 200 people. There was some of them, unfortunately, that was sitting on death row in those over 200 people that had already been put to death before they got their case proven. There is no going back then. So that's the reason why laws are supposed to be put in place. You are supposed to have a for sure eyewitness, like some kind of DNA proof, camera proof. There is supposed to be pure evidence. It's actually supposed to be, isn't it, three pieces of key evidence?
Mm-hmm.
They did not have not one on Gary, not one. So it should not have even been a death row case, period. I mean, something has to get done. I mean, we need help.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
I had a question too. Judy was asking. She's read these transcripts. I've gave her access to our Dropbox too, and this lady has read and she's asked judges that she knew, and every one of them has said that the things that happened in these trials should have never happened, and it was a disgrace. It was a disgrace to our justice system. But she also said, and I forgot it too. Gary got convicted on a Sunday. Back in that day, there was a thing called the Sunday law. You weren't supposed to have court on Sunday. You weren't supposed to sell beer on Sunday. You wasn't supposed to do that stuff on Sunday. So that law was in effect. This law was in effect then, but where Gary's lawyers didn't get that, they got it and held it until they put it through the court. So by the time, which I don't understand it, so by the time it got through the court, that law had been changed. But I don't understand that because it was the law back then. So there is so many things that Gary should, if Governor Lee don't want to exonerate him, just take him off death row. That's fine with us. Take him off death row, and then we can go to trial. And then because they're not going to go to trial because they have nothing. They kept asking about fingerprints. They wanted to say that they had fingerprints, and then in court it's like, no, they had no fingerprints. They had no fingerprints. The eyewitnesses they had didn't see what they said. So it's just crazy. And I know we are all over the place, but this is why we wanted to start this, and this is why we want you all to ask questions. Ask us a topic because we can talk the whole hour about the topic. So I know we're on YouTube and Facebook, but I don't see anybody on this YouTube unless I just can't see it. And then we're not seeing anybody but Judy asking us question. I just lost it again. Asking us questions on our Facebook. So come on, guys. Even y'all that is on Gary's Army, we're supposed to be together. Get on here. Ask us questions. Say stuff. We have to do this for Gary. This is another thing that I was hoping that we would never have to say. We're back at crunch time again. The state of Tennessee has the protocol in place. The lawyers, and the only reason I know that is because all these guys' lawyers has came and said, hey, we got the protocol in place. They've got it in place. We're looking for execution dates to come out at the first of the year. Here we are again.
If y'all remember, Gary was in those 9 that was up for execution, and a couple of them went through execution already. So his name will be one of the first that's called up soon as, they start giving out dates again.
Yeah.
So it sucks that we're having to say this, but I mean, we're begging friends and family to step up. This is when we need everyone right now. Step up.
Judy, you've stepped up. I know. Yeah. Why wasn't Lester Johnson investigated? We don't know. We don't know. They just decided that he was nothing. He was no interest, but yet he is the one that, for whatever reason, Tommy and Connie was supposed to go over to North Carolina. Was it North Carolina? It was North Carolina or South Carolina. I'm pretty sure it was North Carolina, to testify against him on something. He had already sent death threats out to judge. We've got this. We've got this. I got this out of the National Archives. So here's the thing. James's lawyers was working for him. Gary's lawyers was not. So unfortunately, James did die on death row. But I've got things that they were doing for him that his lawyers just simply was not doing for Gary. And it's not right at all. So Lester Johnson was one of them that had threatened the judge, threatened the DA, and these are the ones over in North Carolina. He also had told a lady that she came on, and she told them this at the time too. They choose not to listen to her. That Tommy and he had burnt down her grandmother's barn, and told her that, well, he actually, Lester Johnson had slit her throat. Okay, he got by with those charges. He got off of those charges. So he had made the comment that Connie and Tommy was next. Nobody did anything about that. So we do have statements to where his girlfriend or the wife at the time did bring him to Sevierville the night that Tommy went missing. He did drive a white pickup truck, but this man was never questioned, never anything, because Davenport thought that it wasn't relevant to the case, but yet here he did. He threatened them. So people could come on and say, "Oh, that didn't happen." Yeah, it did. There's a lot of cover up. There's a lot of corruption, and you had a DA that'd been 50 years a DA. Nobody should hold office that long, because you've got your judges, you've got your DA, you've got your lawyers in that town that's going to do what you ask them to do because
favors. Everyone knows. Everyone favors. And then some of what she's saying, Lester Johnson, some of the things that was coming up with them and trials and everything. We're gonna do a deep dive in that next podcast if you'll come back and watch, because there's a whole lot in it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of parts, and we'll read everything to you because there was a lot to that, about testifying and everything. So we will explain all that to you next time.
Yeah.
Come on back. In the meantime, if y'all want to do any research on anything we talked about tonight,
some of this stuff though, you're not going to find.
Now, some of it you would actually have to go and you have to buy them. You have to pay for transcripts. Yeah. But if there is anything in particular you all want to see with your own eyes in black and white, let us know. We will let you see it, because we purchased all of them.
Yeah.
She's got some on disc, some on paper. I mean, we don't care at all to show any of it. So if there is a part that you want to see yourself in black and white, let us know, because we're not here to hide anything.
Right. We
want to expose all of the truth.
Yeah.
This is what we're here for.
Yeah. Hey, Lakeland. Hey, Linda. I think that's your grandmother.
Yeah. Hi, Grandma.
So we've been on here for an hour just rambling.
So
Lakeland is the one that's helped me get so far. So we're going to do this again a night next week where she can be here with us, because if y'all are asking questions on YouTube, and I really don't think there's anybody on YouTube.
It's hard for us to see.
It's hard for us to see, and we'll get it going. And I'm going to go on off of the YouTube thing.
We're going to, as I said,
I'm going to end it.
We're going to end the YouTube right now.
Yeah. So